Jesus. Okay. Let's get back. So if I remember, I don't see her now. I think Debbie. Oh, Debbie, you're here. You asked last week, do you have to stand for Modim? So I said I didn't really think so. I wasn't sure. I had to look up exactly what it says. Most people don't stand, so I assume that's somehow acceptable. So I just so here I'll show you exactly what it says in the Shulchan Aruch, and give me 1 second here. Okay. Everybody can see. Okay. So here it's 127.1. So the Shulchan Aruch doesn't really say anything. It says like this, Di modim de Rabbanan. When the Chazan gets to modim, everybody should bow down with him.
You don't see it.
You don't see it.
Now I see it.
Okay. So chimimo hatzibur. The congregation should bow down. You have it even in English translation at the bottom. That's funny. Lo yischu yoter midai. Don't bow down too much. And they say, well, we do. We spoke about last week, and some say you should also bow at the end. Okay, that's it. He doesn't mention anything about standing. There's no there. You don't have to stand. Nobody says you have to stand. Some people stand out of respect, out of honor. I was looking up, what about standing in general for the repetition of the Shemona Esrei? I'm sure many people know. Again, most people don't stand. But, some yeshiva guys or whatever, they do stand, don't stand. I pointed out last week, if you're in a shul and the rabbi doesn't stand, you're not allowed to stand. You're not allowed to be frummer than the rabbi. It's not frummer. You're less frum. That's what we call yuhara. I didn't mention that. Yuhara is a neglected concept. Chaim Soloveitchik, in his seminal article, Rupture and Reconstruction, when he talks about the changes in the Orthodox world of the last, 50 years, he wrote it 25 years ago, 27 years ago, but the shift to the right, whatever you want to call it, mimetic tradition to a text-based tradition. So he writes that Yuhara went out the window. Yuhara, this concept of religious arrogance. I'm not allowed, and the application of it generally, well, I'm not allowed to show off, like that's why some people say, or don't wear your tzitzis. That's Yuhara. That's I mentioned once before. Rav Schechter told us when he grew up, they told him, I think, I haven't found it in the Mishnah Berurah, so maybe I'm misquoting him, but that's not the point. It says somewhere that a Yirei Shamayim, one who fears heaven, whatever that means, should wear their tzitzis, but normal people shouldn't. So he said when he grew up, he was taught that Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rav Soloveitchik, they wear their tzitzis out. The normal people don't. It says today, every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinks he's a Yirei Shamayim. Like, who do you think you are? So yeah, that's a little bit yuhara. That may be showing off. And you're not supposed to do that. You're also, then we have this other concept that actually I should be more precise, is what we call motzi laz al harishonim. You're not allowed to, motzi laz al harishonim is to say negative things about our earlier authorities. So if this is the one he said has really gone out the window, 100%. That means if rabbis have approved something for 50 years, and all of a sudden you wake up, there's a yesh omrim, said the Mishnah Berurah, this rabbi has a chumrah, let's change practice. So that's considered unacceptable. Motzi laz al harishonim. You're saying what the rabbis did for 100 years is unacceptable. So I forget who. I believe it's in the Trumat Hadesha now. The Trumat this was a major medieval authority. He lived in the 14th century in Germany, Rav Yisrael Isserlin, and the Ramah, Rav Moshe Isserlin, sort of the final Ashkenazic authority in the Shulchan Aruch. He quotes him all the time. The Trumat Hadesh, and I'll get to one fascinating thing he says also about davening times you're talking about. So I believe it's a Trumat Hadeshen. Somebody came as a rabbi of the city, and he came and he saw the Erev, and he didn't like the Erev. You ever heard that one before? Rabbi comes in the community, he doesn't like the Erev. So I can't carry. So he sent a question. What the Trumat Hadeshen started yelling at him, in print. How you don't you dare invalidate that Erev? Great rabbis lived in this community for 100 years. You say the Erev is good. You're going to come along and say the Erev is no good. You're going to say these rabbis are a bunch of Mechalei Shabbos. You cannot do such a thing. That's the sensitivity you have to have. Even you don't agree. I don't agree. It's like a judge issues a ruling. It passes a 5-4 vote. That doesn't matter. The 4 people have to follow what the 5 say. Majority rules. So it's a similar idea. A Rav rules. He's an accepted Rav. and then you can't come along. No, this is something different. So that's so Chaim Soloveitchik points out all this the chumras we have today and the shift to the right. That concept, no, but it's just like they ripped that page out of the Gemara. Like who cares what? Those earlier people they'll make up excuses. No, it was America. What do you want? They have no choice. So I guess I'm not saying I don't know. I'm going to get into trouble here, but I'm not saying that means young Israel should reinstitute mixed dancing. Although I don't know, maybe it would be better than the alternative. Who knows? I don't know if you should call me on that. But but yes, there are certain things that were clearly done. I don't think the rabbis instituted that. They didn't protest it. Whatever. There are things that do change, but many things should not. And there is a concept. It's not every single thing about motzi lasal harishonim. So you have to be careful what the previous people did. But anyways, just one other thing, and then we'll get back. I mentioned the Truman Adeshin and timing. So what can you make early Shavuos on Sunday night? So I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's commonly done. Although I do know in some shuls that I've heard people have told me, some rabbis told me they do it because it increases learning. And it's not really an issue. That to me means that's not a drush in the Gemara. It's not true that you have to wait till the last minute to count. We've already counted on the previous night. You can bring in Yontif early. That doesn't take away from the 7 weeks between Pesach and Shavuot. But anyway, which is, by the way, why we can't count. When we bring Shabbos early, you can't count because it's not the day. It's still Friday, even though we accept the sanctity of Shabbos, but it's still Friday. But the Truman Adeshin, his first tshuva, it's a famous response, but he writes that a rabbi, I don't know, I guess he lived in northern Germany, so if you've ever been to Germany, it gets darker later than it does here on Shabbos. So Shabbos can end, let's say 10:30 at night. So somebody asked him, the rabbi comes to the shul, and they're davening so early on Friday. Remember, it's also people didn't want to go out at night. There was no electricity. So they davened so early that they would go home, eat a meal, and go for a 2-hour walk on the Danube River. That's what he mentioned. They go on the Danube River for a walk and come back, it's still light. In other words, they were davening, let's say 6 o'clock. Plug a mincha, the earliest time, according to any opinion, you could daven would be 7:30. And they're finished davening an hour before you're allowed to begin davening. Well, the rabbi wrote to the Truman Adeshin, what am I supposed to do? There's no halakhic source for this. So the Truman Adeshin hems and haws, it's short. He said he doesn't really know why it's allowed. He doesn't know, but they must do it because it's too hard. They don't want to eat their meal at 10 o'clock at night and blah, blah, blah. So don't make a big deal about it. Whatever, you'll live with that. So it's just a fascinating response. I have the response, and there's some shuls, and not in the conservative movement today. I think some shuls make a 6 o'clock minyan in the winters. It's really too early. You're not allowed to do that. But I don't know if they know. I assume some rabbi there does know of the Truman Adeshin. The Truman Adeshin didn't say it's a good idea. He just sort of, you have to pick your battles. Like that's not, he's trying to justify something that's hard to justify. Anyways, back here, we got a little bit far afield. Let's go back here in terms of standing for modim. So the Shulchan Aruch says nothing about standing, but I do want to point this out because this just to know. So here, Kesheshatz Choser Tfilah. This is now the entire repetition of the Amida. Modim is just one part. So that part we have to say because we have to give our own individual thank you. But what about the rest of the Yaptan Shame? So this is really, we know this, but it's just to see it in the Shulchan Aruch is important, I think. When the shliach tzibur, repeats the Amidah, yesh lahem lishtok. Okay, there's no talking aloud. Okay, that's obvious, but easier said than done. And to pay attention. You have to pay attention, not just daydreaming or learning. You have to think about wisdom, you have to think about wealth, etc. Answer Amen. And if you don't have 9 people, you don't have 9 people, karov liot brachav levatala. He doesn't say if you don't have 9 people who answer Amen. He says you don't have 9 people who are paying attention, like are concentrating. 9 people answering Amen isn't enough. You need 9 people answer Amen who are mechavnim lebirchotav, who are paying attention. Oh, this is the bracha for health. This is the bracha for wealth. This is the bracha for wisdom. This is the bracha for forgiveness. The bracha for justice. This is the bracha for rebuilding Jerusalem. Got to pay attention. It's karov. It's not technically, it's not really a bracha levatala because they're answering amen, but it's close to an unnecessary bracha, which you're not allowed to do. Lachein ya kol adam yased mokilu ein tet. So yeah, okay, but there are 25 people in shul. That's fine. 9 other people pay attention. I am going to schmooze with my friend. Let the other 9 people. No, you should be one of those 9 people who are paying attention. Very interesting. You have to, who knows? Now, if that's fine, I just want to point out here. Let's start with the bear hate type. Okay, I knew Loma Bai. It's of course the Mishnah Berurah says, of course, you're not allowed to. You shouldn't even say the words with the chazan. You have to listen to the chazan. To Rav Soloveitchik, right, against congregational singing in Chazarat Hashatz. We don't do this. I thank God we don't do this. I will admit I could not daven. I would very much be much less inspired if I went on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur to a shul where in Chazarat Hashatz you didn't sing anything congregationally. I would hate it. So, but that's what the Rav was very strict about this, that you shouldn't say the words with the chazan. It's the repetition of the chazan, and the chazan is the only way. If you want to sing and then the chazan repeats it, okay. I don't even know if Rav Soloveitchik was happy with that. That's like a hefsek. Well, okay, but we don't do that. We all sing together, and that's the okay. We're going to justify. We don't follow but it's interesting because it's singing good. We're doing with the chazan, but technically speaking, maybe it's not the best thing. But he says, okay, that you can't say the words. Okay, on a Monday afternoon, no one's going to say the words with the chazan. Zev, you want to mute if you. Zev, if you can mute for a second, just says I can. Okay, hold on a second.
Right, but what I'd like to ask you to
Hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay, I can go back here. I just want to show you what the Mishnah Berurah says, and then the Beritev, and then okay, b'chol shechein, you can't raise your voice. Umezamrim, they sing with the chazan. Okay, v'yesh li gorva. Oh, he doesn't say it here. Okay, lechavein. Oh, yeah. You're not allowed to say Tehillim when the chazan is repeating Shemona Esrei, even if you answer Amen. That's not good. And then he says, Gam kein lo yafehem shosim shalom dim. This is the interesting part. Even those who learn Torah, you see this a lot, yeshiva guys. I want to waste my time in Chazar Tashatz. Listen, so I can have 5 minutes of learning Torah. So the Mishnah Berurah says it's not good. It's not good what they do. And it's interesting. I'll show you the Ber Heitev, which is an earlier commentary. If I can find it here. Ber Heitev. He says like this. The people who learn in Chazar Tashatz or do other or say Tehillim, if they answer Amen, don't protest. Ein li chopiyada means it's not really right, but come on, the guy's learning Torah. You're going to protest a guy learning Torah? That's wonderful. So you shouldn't protest. It's not, it's not whatever. It's okay. Aval b'sefer vayav amudim. I'm not familiar with this sefer. Korei tagar. He yells and screams. He lets them have it. Ay. Terrible to learn in Chazar Hashatz. So I'll say 2 things. It's just interesting. I agree. If a person learns in Chazar Hashatz, that should be the worst thing. You have to do tshuva. If you have to do tshuva on Yom Kippur because you learn Torah in Chazar Hashatz, boy, oh boy, I'd like to change places with you, right? But there are 2 things. So I remember my uncle once telling me, the one who founded Prospect Park in New York, and I'm sure many of you have kids or grandkids who went there. So that's my uncle, Rabbi Jay Kelman, who founded the school. So he told me once, he said, he was a rabbi in shul, and the rabbi's learning, maybe preparing his drasha. So he told the rabbi, that's terrible. Maybe the balabas, I don't know, but it says the rabbi cannot be learning Torah, and that's even worse, especially if it looks like you're preparing your drasha. If the rabbi learns Torah, that's him not paying. I don't pay attention by talking, right? What's the rabbi, when he doesn't pay attention, he learns, but I'm not the rabbi. When I don't pay attention, I schmooze with my friend. So that was an interesting point, and I'll point out, of course, the Rav's famous, beautiful idea that I mentioned, I think, a number of times, but always phenomenal. Just very briefly, the Rav explained that the mitzvah of learning Torah and davening are contradictory mitzvot. They contradict each other. And he says that's why, for example, we'll get to the contradiction in a moment. That's why, for example, the Hasidim focused on prayer. That was a big deal. The Mishnagdim got very mad at them. They all do daven, and singing and dancing, and the Mishnagdim focused on learning. They write in Shlomo Stamper's book on the history of the Volozhin Yeshiva. I believe he writes Shachrit in Volozhin Yeshiva took 20 minutes in the morning. The yeshiva guys, it was a different term. The yeshiva guys rabbis of today. They weren't interested in them, a waste of time. The Gemara has one view like that. It really does. What are you working on? Chayei Sha'ah. What are you working about? Material thing. We want to be spiritual, learning Torah all day. Don't give money. Who cares about that stuff? When you're 20 years old and you're learning 18 hours a day and your parents are supporting you, who cares about money, right? I want to learn Torah. Don't bother me with davening, right? The Gemara says that. Don't waste your time on Chaysha. Then there's another opinion. Halavai she'it palel adam kol yom kulo. Halavai, somebody should daven all day. Clearly, these are two very different ideas. So we do have to daven, whatever, we do both. So why are they contradictory? So the Rav beautifully says that only a child can pray and only an adult can learn. And he says that prayer requires total dependence on God. Why do we pray? Because it's not up to us how our economy is going to do. You have to pray that they don't put tariffs on your industry. That has nothing to do with you. There's nothing you can do. It's out of your control. And only a child recognizes they're totally dependent on their parents. And this is why it's hard for a modern man to pray, because Baruch Hashem, it's good. With science and technology and medicine, we're so advanced. Who needs to pray? Before we had doctors, before we could solve, before when the COVID starts, everybody's praying. God, they shouldn't get sick. Once they have a vaccine, who has to pray? Just get a vaccine. So that's the problem. I understand that. So only a child who recognizes total dependence can pray. And only an adult can learn, because adult learning requires critical thinking, independence. That's the Rav Soloveitchik's, his tradition, the Lithuanian tradition. You don't have to agree with your teachers. You can argue with them and question them. You do not have to follow them. This notion of Das Torah is a modern day invention. It's critical thinking. And I remember the Rav saying, "How do you know?" My Rebbe told me. What did your Rebbe told you? That doesn't work. And I remember Rav Schachter told us, if you ask a shaila to a Rav, and his answer doesn't make any sense to you, you're not supposed to follow it. It's not like, oh, the rabbi said, so I follow it. No, I don't know, maybe but no. If you not learn the rabbi, it makes no sense. And that's what Rav Moshe Feinstein writes in his introduction to Igros Moshe. We quote a beautiful introduction. Rav Moshe Feinstein writes, people ask me questions, here's my answer, and I'm going to explain to you my answer. If you like my reasoning, follow what I say. If you don't like it, don't follow me. You're not obligated to follow me. I explained to you, this is what I think, and here's why I think it. You like it? Oh, that's good. I'll follow it. So this is only a child can pray, only an adult can learn, which is why the halacha is that you're not allowed to learn Torah before you daven. Again, halavai, this should be what you have to do tshuva for on Yom Kippur. But the Gemara says that you're not allowed to learn. Gemara says you can do a halacha psuka. You can do something that requires no thinking, just like a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, just a basic do this, do that. But to learn a Tosfos, to learn Gemara, complicated, you can't do that because your mind will be thinking about learning when you daven. You're not supposed to think about it. You're not allowed to learn when you daven. So again, okay, halavai, okay, it's a different quality a person. It's a different shul when you have to tell people in Chazar Dashatz, please close your sefer. Can you imagine the rabbi gets up and says, we won't continue till everybody close their sefer. Wow. I've never been to such a shul. And believe me, if I was the rabbi in such shul, I would never do that. But talking, that's a different story. But it is interesting just to know the davening and learning are two important but very distinct and contradictory. The Rav said it in the context, as those who know, in the context of Sarah, that Sarah lived to be 120 and 7, and Sarah she was as beautiful as at 100 as she was at 20, and innocent at 20 as she was at 7. And Shnei Chayei Sarah repeats itself, and Rashi says Kulam Shavim, they're all equal. And the Rav explains that Sarah had the innocence of a child as she was an adult, and had the critical, the mind, the thinking of an adult while she was a child. The beautiful. I just explained it not so nice. Listen to the Rav. I said it so beautifully. That was the greatness of Sarah. She was a child and an adult at the same time, and that's when he got into the whole thing: davening only children, adults learning only adults. But Sarah, that's the greatness of Sarah, that she was retained her childhood. Youthful idealism and innocence as she's matured, and she matured as a young child. Okay, let's get back. Okay, Deb. Yes, Yochevet.
Okay, but I just want to point out in Halachic Man, the Rav tells the story that he took out a Tilim in between, whether it was Kabbalah Shabbos and Ma'ariv, or maybe it was Rosh Hashanah, I don't remember. And his father came and took it away, gave him a Mishnayos instead.
Right, yeah, they were against learning. Saying Tehillim was like, yeah, they didn't go for that. True,
Right.
now they
Now,
don't go for that
still
either.
Hasidic, I guess.
I'm
Right.
sorry. Right. Yeah, I'm sure people learned. Listen, I just want to point out, I'm not telling anybody don't learn in Chazar to Shatz. I mean, I don't know. It's what it says in the Mishnah where you're not supposed, but like Halavai, somebody learns it, but but in an idea, but the concepts are beautiful. Everything, eight smoke, there's a time for everything. There's a time to daven, there's a time to learn, and not every time is for learning. When you daven, you shouldn't be learning. But the Rav explains it so beautiful. It's a totally different mindset. Davening, learning, your mind has to think totally, and it's very hard. And that's what Rav said. It's hard. It's very hard for people to specialize in both. The Hasidim specialize in Tfilah, the Misnagdim, and that's what I mean. That's why we like them 20 minutes. Okay, I have to daven. The Halacha says that. Just get over with chick-chock. That someone can be daven with great kavana and be a great Talmid Chacham, that's hard. Because it's a totally different mindset. It is the problem is we don't realize it's a totally different mindset. We're so like, but yeah, it's wonderful to go to a Daf Yomi shir before Minyan in the morning. Fantastic. But in Yamad HaMashiach, you'll learn Daf Yomi after Shachrit, not before Shachrit. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. But Halavai, we should learn Daf Yomi and, or whatever. Okay, back here. I haven't even begun what I wanted to say today, and it's, okay, my gosh. Okay, so, Debbie, you don't have to stand for Modim. You heard that part, or were you here when I said that? Okay, very good. Okay, let's just finish and start Birchat Kohanim. So the only thing we went to Modim D'Rabbanan, Al Kulam Yitbarach V'Tram Shimcha Malkeinu Tamid L'Olam. At the end of after Modim, we continue, and for all of this, Yitbarach V'Tramam, we will praise you. All that God has done for us. In Modim, we thank God for so many things. All the things. For Al Kulam, for all this. Right, just to go back, Yiparach, we will bless you. Tamid, we'll bless your name. That's always the notion, right? It's God's name. We can't really bless God, right? Akiddush Hashem. We sanctify God's name. We desecrate God's name, God forbid, right? Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh. Your name is holy, because the name is the reputation. I mean, let's say that's the simple way to explain it. We know Kiddush Hashem, you're making God look bad or look good. So it's to make God's reputation great. So we praise your name. We say how wonderful you are, so people will want to aspire to follow God's commands constantly. Tamid L'Olam V'ed, 24/7, 365. Right. That's whatever you do in life, you can sanctify God's name. Right. The trick is to take the davening. Right. The trick is to not to I heard this verse from Saul Berman is the first one who expressed it so beautifully many years ago, and he was here when we had him for Torah Motion before they invented computers almost, no Zoom, no nothing. So he spoke about the challenge is to see work as a continuation of of mitzvah. It's not that like I go to daven, okay, that's my religious life, and then I go to work, that's my secular life. I got to make a living, go to work, and then I come back at night and I learn. No. When you go to work, that's your religious life. Maybe that's even more your religious life. And he said the Torah set up so the farmer every other second. It's Shavuos this weekend. Leket Shicha Peah, farming. That's a root. Everything is farming. Mitzvot, right? So the farmer, everything he does, he has a religious obligation. Says the trick is, how do you put that into Wall Street? How do you make that into a lawyer, an investment banker? That everything you do is imbued with religious significance. So obviously, it's how you conduct yourself in business, but it's not separate, and that's also hard for people. And he said, what's hard sometimes if you have that attitude, then you're more likely to cheat. Now, business is not that's my secular. It's like you're Jekyll and Hyde. You're the most religious person in shul. You go to work. No, I'm like the animals. Everybody. This is in the business world. Everybody just stops people in the back to get ahead. There are no, as long as it's not too illegal. But everybody cuts corners because that's the way business works. If you want to make money, so that's a terrible attitude. Yeah, you're right. You may not make so many deals. You may make less money. You will make less money. That if you're totally honest in business, correct? You will. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you run a good business, you get a good reputation, but you all understand what I'm saying. But it shouldn't, Tamid, that's the concept that everything we do is to sanctify His name. Playing sports can be a way to sanctify names. I think it's anybody who teaches in the high school or anybody who deals with kids knows how important sports is to showing, you can show beauty and there's much to learn. So I should send you my article right on baseball, baseball and not just Sandy Koufax not pitching in the World Series, but like how all the rules and teamwork. There are many, many ideas, and it's not by coincidence. For those who went to Gush many years ago, Rav Lichtenstein used to play basketball with the guys. I remember in high school, Rav Tabor used to play basketball with this. He's a good basketball player, and they play tough. And people say, and I think Rabbi Willig, people told me Cam Morshet played tennis. All the guys with you see, they're normal. Like it's not just normal; it's healthy. And it shows you can have a normal life, but it also there's so many midot that you can actually do. Yes, there's lots of narishkeit too, of course. But anyways, so everything we do is part of worshiping God and bringing glory to God's name. Okay, v'chol ha'chaim yedu chesed. It's awesome. Who's v'chol ha'chaim? And all living beings. It means the lions, tigers, and bears also. But that's so it could be. But probably not. Probably Kol HaChaim just means Jew and non-Jew, right? The true matter, normally Kol HaChaim does mean animals, but I don't know in this context how that could apply. But so I think in this context, it probably just means all those who are alive, meaning Jews and non-Jews. Prayer, by the way, is a general obligation, right? In other words, it's not one of the 7 Noachite laws directly, but indirectly it is. I think that's what Rav Moshe writes. Like belief in God is one of the 7 Noachite mitzvahs. So what does it mean to believe in God? It means God provides. God is the one who ultimately decides, what's going to be, why is your business successful and why his isn't? You're both equally smart. You both equally work hard. So if you truly believe in God and God controls things, you pray to God. So prayer is really part of the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach, a belief in God, is for Jews also, right? In a sense, that's what it means to pray to God, to believe in God. So that's what
I always thought it meant throughout your life.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm just looking now the RCA Siddur that I've been using recently here. All that lives, so they follow like me. Anybody have other Siddurim open, and they can see how they translate. Now, my Siddur says the way I did. All your life, v'chol ha'chayim. Can you translate all your life? But I don't think it works. I don't think so. But if anybody has a siddur that says that, I always understood it, and that's how they translate it. All v'chol ha'chayim, all who live, yodu chesela. You want to say all your life you should give thanks. Okay, it's also true, but I don't think that's what it's saying here.
It would have to be b'chol ha'chayim, b'chol, like throughout your life.
Right. It would say b'chol ha'chayim. I knew there was something grammatically wrong. Thank you, Susan. Right. So all should give thanks via hallelujah and praise. Thanks and praise are not exactly the same thing. We're not going to go into that now. I didn't write down al hanisim, halal behoda. Right. There are 2 different things. There's thanksgiving to say thank you, and then there's praise. They're connected, but we realize they're not exactly the same. So this focus on emet, on truth. We all we TL people, is that the word? We say things that we don't mean. God doesn't like that. And the best example, of course, is Rashi quotes that when the brothers couldn't talk to Yosef, they couldn't talk to him in peace. And Rashi says, "Mitoch nutam, from the bad we learned the good." Yeah, it's not so nice. It's very not nice how they treat Joseph. But you know what? They were honest about it. They didn't play games. They weren't achad b'leiv, achad b'peh. They weren't something. They didn't pretend one thing. They didn't stab you in the back. They stabbed you in the heart. And much better to be echad b'peh, echad b'leiv. And this is something we're easy to be guilty of. We say things we don't believe them because and when it goes into politics, how much worse it is there. But we all do it, unfortunately. So emet, and the Gemara says chotamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu emet. The signature, the signpost, God's signature is truth. Is truth. The only thing that trumps truth is peace. But that's we'll get to. That's the next bracha we're coming up to Sim Shalom. But that really is the next bracha. But emet, chotamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu emet. And if you're going to pray, if you don't mean it, don't say it. And we discussed many times, if you can't daven, don't daven. right? Again, we've made davening so mechanical. We just say the words. It's supposed to be from the heart. You're not, the Siddur has negativity to it. Really, it takes away our spontaneity. What can we do? We have no choice. But it's become so rote, and so what we do, none of us, and the halakha poskim say we don't follow these halakhas anymore. Halakha, you come back from if your mind is not at ease, you're not allowed to daven. That's what it says in the Shulchan Aruch. We say we don't follow that anymore because no one would ever daven. Like, and if you didn't have kavana for the first bracha of the Shemona Esrei, you have to repeat it. So they said, no, we don't do that either, because you'll say the Shemona Esrei 26 times before you have proper intent. So we just we mumbled the words. It's really not so good. What can we do? But you're supposed to, and we said already, Yirmiyahu and Daniel took away that God is great because they saw the terrible things going on with the destruction of the temple. So your davening has to be true, and if you don't believe it, you shouldn't say it. It's printed in the Siddur. Too bad. That's really what it has to be. But okay, like I say, so you have to worship God be'emet, with truth. And believe me, God knows. You can fool other people, but you're not fooling God. Okay, so that's very important. Again, don't be so beholden to every word in the Siddur. The Siddur was really a guidebook. It's hard. We want to know how to do it on our own, but it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to worry that there are certain things you have to worry about. Yeah. You have to pray for rain. If you don't say Mashi for Ruach, and I imagine if you didn't say Mashi for Ruach, we say, God, you bring rain, that's also good enough. You can pray in English. There are certain things you have to say, but you don't have to say every word, necessarily. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and, okay, I don't like this word. It means davening should be from the heart, what you're feeling, but it has to be with truth. Okay. Okay, we'll move on. I want to get to Birchat Kohanim. We say, God, your name is good, and it's appropriate to give thanks to you. Of course, the Talmud says we have to thank God for the good and the bad. Remember, and it's clearly true, when you look in the Mishnah, it was obviously the first Siddur doesn't come around until the 8th, 9th century. So already in the time of the Talmud, they had certain things they would say, but clearly the Chazanim things were made up. Like every Chazan, they didn't have a fixed text. So the Mishnah says there's certain things, if the Chazan says, you remove him. If he says modim, I think he says two modims. So I'd say modim, big deal. I'm thanking God over. We have songs. We repeat words all the time because we do it in Halal. Otcha ki anitani. Those are not. It's not choice in Tehillim. That custom came. It's so beautiful. So we're going to repeat it. Okay, so we repeat it. So the Gemara says if you say modim, Modim, that's code for two gods, the God of good, the God of evil. Today, I don't know that would be true. I don't think people would think like that, but that's the way. So there's certain things you have to be aware and can't say, don't say, but the Chazanim got up and they said their own things, whatever. But of course, that form of tefillah has long past, and today, because the Reform and conservative movement, there's a reverence to the Siddur that in many ways is unwarranted, because if you change anything, you're a reformer, but that's unfortunate. Doesn't maybe the reality, but it's unfortunate. Okay, let's talk a few minutes on Birchas Kohanim. And we won't finish that, I don't think, very much. So the first thing I'll start is Shavuos. Of course, we have to talk a little bit of Shavuos, but so, of course, we're all Kohanim. Everybody here is a Kohen. V'atem tiyuli mamlechet Kohanim v'goy am kadosh, which is probably why the holidays are in Parshat Emor, right? You wonder. We just read 2 weeks ago, I guess. We read all the holidays appear all over the place in Chumash, but the holidays as a group appear 3 times in Chumash, right? They appear in Parshat Emor, and then 2.5 places. They appear 2.5 places as Pinchas, yes, and
Re'eh.
So Re'eh, it's only half because it's the Shalosh Regalim. Okay, 3/5 or 3, right? And Emor is the most detailed explanation of the holidays. Pinchas is all the sacrifices of all the holidays. Of course, and why the Torah does this, that's not for now. But it's interesting. And Parshat Re'eh is just the Shalosh Regalim. That's easy to explain because the Shalosh Regalim, Sefer Dvarim, is all about preparing to go to the land of Israel. The whole book is about preparing to go to the land of Israel. So Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur have nothing to do with Israel. Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot are primarily agricultural festivals in the Torah. Shavuos is only an agricultural festival. There is no mention of Matan Torah that it was given on Shavuos. There's a mention of Matan Torah on the Torah, but the Torah never says what day it is because we don't care what day it is because Torah is every day. Shofar is once a year. Torah doesn't want us blowing shofar every day. Torah doesn't want us fasting every day. I mean, focusing on tshuva every day. Yom Kippur go nuts. Torah doesn't, Torah doesn't want us leaving our house the whole year. No, we can live in a house once week a year. You have to know what it's like to be homeless, to be sensitive to homeless, so we leave our house. All these things apply once a year, but Torah, that's 24, 365. The Torah can't be limited to one day. So the Torah doesn't tell us, it's irrelevant. It's isn't my, I've mentioned this before, I think based on Mordechai Breuer, right, that it was only after the year 70 when Shavuos didn't make any sense. Shavuos, nobody today celebrates Pesach as an agricultural holiday, but if you look in the Torah, that's it's Chag Haviv, and it's the Korban Omer, and it's all the, it's agricultural. All the festivals are the Shalosh Regalim are agricultural holidays. We're thanking God, the beginning of the harvest, etc. So Shavuos only has that. So we're living in Poland. What are you going to do on Shavuos? So the rabbis reinvented the holiday. We know they got to around Shavuos, and the Gemara is not sure exactly when it got there. There's a debate according to 5th, 6th, or 7th of Sivan. So that's anyway. So that's Shavuos. It's purely an agricultural festival. So in Parshat Re'eh, the Torah only mentioned those festivals that relate to the land of Israel. That's Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. When you have to go to the land of Israel, you have to come to the temple, etc. So, but Parshat Emor has the largest explanation of the holidays, the Mitzvot Hayom. Then you have in different places. Obviously, Pesach is in Ve'era Bo. You got and the Shalosh Regalim are mentioned in Mishpatim and Kitisa at the end of Long Thing. Again, we don't go into now, but you can look there. Shalosh Pamim B'Shana, and Lo Tiva Shogdi B'Chalev Imo. It has a whole series of laws at the ends of Mishpatim and the end of Kitisa, where it throws in the Shalosh Regalim, and but that's it. And Sukkot is mentioned by Hakel, by Shemitah. But Emor. So what's it doing in Parshat Emor? What's it doing in Torah Kohanim? Because the idea of the holidays, everybody comes to the Beit HaMikdash. Everybody's a Kohen. The entire Jewish nation, Vatem Tiyulim, that happened on Shavuos. Okay, we'll accept we celebrate Shavuos as Man Matan Toratenu Peseder. So on Shavuos we became a Malechet Kohanim. So what do we do? So what are the Kohanim? The Kohanim, they're in the Beit HaMikdash, and so everybody comes to the Beit HaMikdash on the Shalosh Regalim, and we all have it. What does a Kohen mean? You have a special relationship with God. So the Kohanim, the real Kohanim, the biological Kohanim, so they do the actual work in the temple. So compared to the Jewish people, where they are the Kohanim. But we, compared to the nations of the world, we're the Kohanim. The Jewish people are Kohanim for the whole world. We serve the whole world. What are the Kohanim? They do service for the whole world. They teach. The main job of the Kohen is to teach Torah. So the Kohanim were the ones who taught the Jewish people. We'll get there actually when in Birchat Kohanim. That was the main role. They didn't work so much in the Beit HaMikdash. And the role of the Jewish people is to be an Or LaGoyim, to spread Torah to the whole nation. So what the Kohanim do for us, we do for the rest of the world. So we are a Mamlechet Kohanim, and anyways, Parshat Emor. Okay, so we say Birchat. Yes.
Would it also refer to the fact that originally we were all the Bechorim were supposed to be the Kohanim?
And therefore, so that's only the Bechorim.
So really, we as a nation, more of us would have been Kohanim if we hadn't sinned, right?
I don't know. It's pretty. This is one of the anomalies that the commentaries haven't quite figured out. There were this week Bamidbar 603,000 males, 550 between the age of 20 and 16. How many firstborns were there? 22,273, or at 22,273. That's impossible.
Right.
How in the world do you have 20? How do you have 600,000 people and only 1 in 50 or 1 in 30, whatever, are elder borns? What you're going to, every mother had 30 kids? I don't know. It's very strange. And there were 22,000, right? 22,273. We're going to read next week. They had a shift. When they shifted, they had these extra 273 people. So you had the same amount of Kohanim as you did of firstborn. I think we're Mamlechet Kohanim. It's God. That's to the entire Jewish people. That's before Matan Torah. We are Mamlechet Kohanim. Then we have but people have to go to work. The Kohanim are the people who taught. They're the civil servants of the Jewish people. That's really what they are. They're the civil servants. So they work in the temple. They teach Torah. They take care of. And we're taxed to pay them. Truma, Maser, we Bikurim, and whatever we give taxes, quote unquote, so the civil servants don't have to go to work. They can work for the public, but you only want a small percentage. I mean, most people have to go to work, so that's what they have. And then when you look at the world as a whole, yeah, we're Kohanim in terms of the whole world. We have a mission to the whole world. We're all Kohanim. But that's what it says. God said, "Atam tiyuli mamlaka Kohanim, b'goy am kadosh," and you'll be a holy nation. That's what God said. That's why He's giving us a Torah. Anyways, and right, I've said that's what I'm in the middle of writing Dvar Torah now. Like we listen, 2,000 years of exile and persecution and pogroms have made us less sensitive to caring about the goyim and the big mission, the goyim. We've lost that sense. But read Yeshayahu. I mean, I say all the time, what's the temple? Ki beitit ve'tvila yikarei l'chol hamim. The temple is the place where all nations come. We welcome the Catholics and the Hindus and the Sikhs and the Muslims and the what am I missing? All the Zoroastrians. We welcome them. So beiti yikarei l'chol hamim. I don't know that it doesn't put any limits on that. The temple is for everybody. Everybody has to worship God, right? We have to teach them to worship. There's only one God, because some of these religions don't believe in only one God. So that's our mission. But we have enough doing with the Jewish people, and we lost it. They were so mean to us, the non-Jews, so we don't care. We stopped caring. But now that we have a state of Israel, it's one of the biggest challenges in the state of Israel. I don't want to start about the war, but although that is something to think about, is how do we deal with minorities? How do we deal with non-Jews in Israel? 2 million Arabs, for Israeli citizens, forget the Palestinians. Not that we should, but whatever. But how do we deal with them? The Torah all the time, be nice to immigrants. That's the number one message of the Torah, more than any other thing. It's repeated 36, and then one opinion 46 times, all the time, everything, be nice to Gerim, strangers. So obviously the Jewish people, and I have to find, has anybody ever heard that talk of Rav Soloveitchik, that scary talk? You know what I'm talking about? Rav Soloveitchik, it went around, and I heard it about 2-3 years ago. Morris, you know what I'm talking about? I'll tell you, maybe you'll know.
I see ghosts.
No, the Rav gave a talk in the 50s, I believe. They have it on tape where, we know Jews were always the most sensitive. We fought with the black. We were always, rights, civil rights. That's Jews. Social justice and caring for the underdog. Beautiful, beautiful. Rav said he doesn't know is that the Jews are just because we were weak. So we affiliated with the weak because the weak joined together because we can't fight. But now that we have a state of Israel, we'll see how we are going to treat the weaker people. And if we are going to treat them like other nations treated us, it says it's all baloney, that for 2,000 years Jews care, that that's not true. So how Israel will treat the stranger, the outsider, the immigrant, the non-Jew, will determine how Jewish, will prove what it is. It's a very powerful idea, and it's very true if you think about it, right? Now that we were powerless, of course. When you're powerless, you act much differently. The question is, how do you act when you're in power? And I don't want to pass, judgment, but everybody should think about that for a long time. Now it's hard for us. We're individuals, but the Torah was given to Klal Yisrael. The Torah was not given to any individual. And Klal Yisrael has a mission, and Klal Yisrael has to do certain things. So now, for the first time in 2,000 years, we have the opportunity and the challenge, and it's not simple. We're learning. It's very, very difficult in how we treat, but that's an important message. It's easier to daven, to go to Daf Yomi Shira. These are easy things. Even to give tzedakah, that's easy stuff. But to create a society that is just for all to be welcome, that's hard. What's Israel's going to do with migrants? What should Israel do? People escaping other countries, they're refugees. Should Israel welcome them? Right? I know you know what's going on there. I don't know exactly. Right? What do we do? You're going to turn away refugees. So what about all the Jews who couldn't get into America and to Canada? None is too many. And we're so upset at the governments because the people died in the Holocaust because nobody would let us in. So how can Israel not let in refugees? I'm not saying, right, where do you draw the line? But it has to be a Jewish state. But you have to think about these questions. These are the real questions. That's what it means to be a Torah nation. It's one individual. The Torah is not for individuals. There's an individual component to Torah, but for 2,000 years, we only had the individual component for Torah, so we forgot about everything else. But the Torah, now there's a nationhood of Torah, and now we have that opportunity. And so, I don't know, I'm not there, I'm just, whatever, these are things we have to think about. No, and anybody disagree or everybody disagree? I don't know. You want to throw stones at me? Bakasha, thank God we're on computer. It's okay. And people can yell and scream at me. I got for all kinds of things. That's all right. But no, I really think it's these are issues. This is when, if you're going to be, let's say, if you're going to be a religious politician, you want to be in politics in Israel. This is their politician job. What are we going to do? Not how much money we can get for our sector, how much money for a new settlement, a new yeshiva. No, that's not what's the issues facing Israel. Justice, tzedek tirdov. That's what the Torah wants. There's not one settlement on some hill, some in the West Bank. That's not what God wants from us. I don't believe that. Okay, don't have to agree with my politics or whatever, but let's think overall. I'm not saying what we should or shouldn't do, but let's think in reality. What are the challenges facing the Jew? What does it mean to get the Torah in 2025? Right? The rabbis say every day, that's part of the thing why there's no date to Torah. Every day the Torah should be new, right? We know that. Hayom hazeh, the Torah says this day. What do you mean this? Every day. What do you mean the Torah should be new? So we interpret Torah should be new. It should be exciting. When a kid gets a toy, plays for it after, you get a new computer, you're excited, new technology, and a week later you're bored with it. So the Torah, we should make the Torah exciting. So that's also true, but I don't think that's what it really means. What it truly means is every day there are new challenges. The Torah is meant to be applied every day, and every day there are new things. What are the issues that Torah Jews face today, and how are we going to use the Torah to solve this? It's not easy. The Torah doesn't tell us. God gave us Torah. You figure it out. He gave us a guide. Now, how do you apply that guide? That's what it means. Every day there are new challenges and there are new opportunities, and today way more. You were born in the 1800s. How much did life change in your lifetime? 1800s it started to change. Born in the 1400s. How much did life change from the time you were born until you died? Nothing, right? Today in 1 week, it's like unbelievable. It's impossible. It's impossible to keep up. I mean, it's mind-boggling. So it's really challenging. So we need to figure out. And we didn't do such a good job. And I'll say something. The true matter, we did a crummy job with emancipation. That's why 90% of Jews aren't Orthodox. The rabbis did a really bad job. I'm not even blaming them. I'm not saying it was their fault. It was too fast. They didn't know how to deal with modernity. So I told you, two approaches happened. Either, and I said many times, and it's 100% true, the Haredim and the Reform agreed. They totally agreed that modernity and Torah cannot coexist. They both agree. Reform says, okay, can't coexist. We have to update the Torah. We have to reform the Torah. And the Kohanim said, modernity and Torah can't exist. We got to change. We got to ignore modernity. They agree. They agree on the problem. They just disagree on the solution. Only the modern Orthodox, me, the other people, I assume most people here, we believe no, you can have your cake and eat it too. But that's much harder. That's much, much harder. How do we have Torah applied? And we didn't. And when you have religious Jews and the majority saying we reject science and we reject modernity, so no Jews are going to run away from that. So 10% of Jews in Hungary remain very religious, but everybody else rejected religion because they don't want a religion that says I can't think in science, I can't go to university, I can't be cultured in the world, I can't play sports. No, that doesn't work. So we blew it, and that's why we're even with all the coming back. Most Jews left. Most Jews abandoned Yiddishkeit. So that's a failure of the leadership. It's very easy to blame reform. They're terrible. Reform is terrible. Why don't we look inwardly? What did we do wrong? That's the Maritz Chaitz' whole essay about this. What we weren't up to. Okay, I'm not here to give a harangue and speech, but I'm just saying that's really what Torah is all about. Torah is all about dealing with the issues that we deal with, and we have to struggle. Okay, let's do just a little bit back in the Siddur because people are going to get upset at me, or they are already. Okay, you can ask me afterwards. Just assume for it's late already, but just do a couple minutes. I'll ask you the simple question.
Who cares?
Who cares what? You want to? Were you saying you were asking me? Are you asking me something? I'm happy to answer that word. But okay. After class, I'm happy to answer anything. Everybody, please feel free to argue with me if you'd like. But let me just say, Birchas Kohanim. Okay, question. Birchas Kohanim. Is Birchas Kohanim the end? Very strange. Birchas Kohanim is very strange. Okay, what we say now, it's not a bracha. There's no bracha at the end. Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yichunecha yer Hashem panav elecha v'seim kashalom. I got that backwards. There's no bracha, and we only say it in the repetitions of one etche. Is it part of Modim or part of Sim Shalom? Is it the 18th bracha or the 19th bracha? So I'll explain with me. So it's very funny into like the Biurei Tefillah, which is they put out Rabbi Wogelmuth, who taught Tefillah at Maimonides, much is based on Rav Soloveitchik for many years. So in his Siddur, on his book, he what does he say? Yeah, it's the end of a modim. It's like part of the modim bracha. He say Birchas Kohanim. In the Tibina by Jacob's volume, he starts the 19th bracha starts with Birchas Kohanim. I just find that cute. They can't even agree. Is Birchat Kohanim the end of the modim bracha or the beginning of the Sim Shalom bracha? Okay, now what difference does it make? We'll have to wait for that till next week, please God. But it's just sort of an interesting idea. Which bracha is it? So, what? Any?
Rabbi,
Yes.
it was last year, and I believe it was in Shavuot, and I believe it was Rabbi Lite who gave a class, and he sh- showed how Team Shalom is structured after like the Birchat Kohanim.
Yeah, we'll get to why it's structured here, right? No, Sim Shalom, right. That's clearly connected to both. I'm just sort of asking a cute question. Is it like part of the Modim bracha or Sim Shalom? Yeah. What's it doing here? So we'll begin, please God, next week's class. Exactly. I'll go to the Gemara and Megillah. What's it doing here? By the way, happy anniversary, Marty. I can say publicly. Okay. And 32 years,
Thank
right?
you.
Okay.
I'm saying it tomorrow.
I'm sorry? Yes.
I'm saying it tomorrow.
Right. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. We know we got married a day apart. That's why I wish him happy anniversary. Okay. So just let me end. I'll do one little piece. I'll read the psukim in Malachi about the role of the Kohanim. We talked about, peace and all these nice, beautiful things and so I just things we know a little bit. Just let me find it here. It's got too many. It's blocking here. Malachi, here we go. Malachi is the last of the prophets, probably. Okay, whatever. Okay, so he's talking, these are two very famous verses, but it's important as the background to who the Kohanim, where I said we're all Kohanim, the entire Jewish people, but the Kohanim, then they're Kohanim for the Jewish people. So here you go, Torah Emet, again, this idea of truth, the Torah of truth that we just spoke about, Haita b'fiyu, right? Right, that's exactly what we just said. And what were the exact words? Be'emet. And what were the exact words you said? Yahalu shimcha be'emet. Right? You have to talk truth. Torah emet I have a few. Vavlonim lonim sab b'sfatav, and no fault is found in his lips. So obviously it's the same idea. B'shalom u'mishor halach. He walked in peace and straight. He was straight. No kunzes. No stabbing you in the back. Right? And he returned many from sin. They are outreach workers. The goal of the Kohanim is to prevent people from sin. They're outreach workers. That's basically every Jew is. Chabad takes that on as a serious mission. Again, but in a certain sense, the Kohanim after Rabim Eshim Yavon, and I think again that applies to the Kohanim for the Jewish people, and applies for the Jewish people vis-a-vis the rest of the world. Kisifte Kohen Yishmerutat, the lips of the Kohen will maintain our faith, our religion. They are the teachers of Torah, the promoter. The Torah Yivakshu Mipiyu, and we should seek Torah. They are the teachers, right? Ki Malach Hashem Tzvaotu, because he is the angel of God. This is like the two very famous verses, or two that really put the role of the Kohanim, right? You have gone away from the path. That's Malachi talking, and you've caused many to sin, right? But the role of the Kohen is to bring people back to Torah. By the way, this verse, and I'll just leave it. We'll maybe pick up on, maybe discuss it a little bit next week. The question is learning Torah. The pasuk says, "Kisipte kohen yishmut Torah Hashem yivakshim mipiu ki malach Hashem." Sorry, he's like an angel. So the Gemara has one teaching: if the kohen is like an angel, you can learn Torah from him. If Torah is not like an angel, you're not allowed to learn Torah from him. And that's the source that many people say you're not allowed to learn Torah from a non-Orthodox rabbi, etc., etc. There, of course, are other Gemaras that say we accept the truth from whoever says it. It doesn't matter. And of course, you realize what they. So there's a whole. Rav Guttel, who is where now I forget the institution he works with. He has a fantastic article going through all the opinions about learning Torah from non-religious Jews, etc., etc. That the idea of the Kohen, of course, the Torah represents truth and perfection. We want the Kohen to represent. I mean, that's a drasha. The simple meaning, we want the Kohen to be like the angel of God. The Kohen is the one teaching Torah, preventing people from sinning. That's the ideal. He should have this purity to him. Okay, we'll pick up next week. Just quickly, let's do review. Okay, so we spent the first half talking about Modim and Chazar Hashatz. We back to Debbie's question last week. Do you have to stand? The Shulchan Aruch doesn't say anything about standing. Yeah, it's bekavod. Some people stand for the entire Shemona Esrei, but strictly speaking, there's no reason to stand. You have to bow. You're supposed to listen to the entire Amidah, not just answer Amen. It's not ideally not just answer Amen. You're supposed to be focusing. Of course, you're not supposed even learning Tehillim and probably even learning Torah is not really right. So there's a debate: should you yell at people who learn Torah and Chazar Hashatz? I think we would all agree today that's ridiculous. I mean, maybe if you're the rabbi of the shul, maybe yes, it is. You shouldn't be doing that. But Halavite people would learn Torah instead of talking or what have you. But ideally, it just shows you the sensitivity we're supposed to have to the Shemona Esrei, the repetition of the Chazan. It's really serious. It's davening together as a community. You have to be paying attention, doing nothing else. Nobody would learn Torah while they're saying their own private Shmones, right? This is no different. But okay, we're not. We should just be aware that such things exist. And then we spoke about the problem of Motzi Laz al Harishonim. You're not allowed to change newfangled customs. You always have to be very, very concerned, because then you're implying that previous rabbis who for years did something did it inappropriately, and that's a terrible thing to do. How that, and today that's a Chaim Soloveitch pointed out a huge challenge. We've changed everything, and some of it is not right. And you have rabbis in Eruvin would never, even though they thought the Eruv was no good, they wouldn't say a word, because if the previous rabbi said the Eruv is good, I'm not going to come and say it's no good. And that's the way every legal system works. A judge can't, well, maybe now they can, but it used to be a judge can't come in and just undo all the previous ruling because he doesn't like them. No, you have to accept them. That's how a government works. That's how a democracy works. That's how Torah works. We accept the authority of previous people. And then we talked about the wild tshuva, the Truman had Adeshin, maybe davening really early Friday night that people did. And then on Shavuos, I think it would be a nice idea. I think it's a smart idea to make Yontif early the first day and have more time for learning. It's not commonly done. But what is now commonly done, I see it all over the place now, people make the second day Yontif. When I was young, making the second day Yontif early was unheard of. That was like the Reforms did that. The Reform Shul. Somehow today it became acceptable. And I'm not saying it's wrong. Their tshuva is why it's fine. But I'm just saying, so that's, timing is always an interesting idea. Okay, and then we talked about the Al Kulam. All people have to praise God. And we praise God is God's name and making sure that we have a duty to make God's reputation great. Shimcha Hagadol, but it's got to be done with truth and sincerity, and it's got to inspire other people, because we are the Kohanim to the whole world, just to teach Torah, to teach what it is to be an ethical person. That's the mission of the Jewish people, and the mission that we were unable to fulfill so well for 2,000 years, but now we have a chance to fulfill, and this will be the challenge that we have for our time. Okay, and I want to wish everybody a wonderful Shavuos. I'll take questions in a second. Like I said, if you haven't registered tomorrow night, I hope we'll see you tomorrow night at 10:15 until 11:45, and like I say, it's a different password. I don't even know what it is. You have to register, get it. Okay, just let me see questions. See some people. Oh, thank you, Yocheved, for posting the talk on the right. It's a fantastic talk. Really, more important, way more than my share, 1,000 times better. Listen to the Rev's talk on Chayesar. It's that's the one on Peter Pan, right? He talked about Peter Pan, and
He mentions it, yeah.
yeah, so it's playing in Toronto. That's why I thought of Peter Pan. It's not playing at Mervish Theater in Toronto. I didn't see it, but anyways. Okay, links to the Rev Talk. Very good. Makes more sense to be part of Sim Shalom. Thank you. First, after it's the bracha modim, and second, it ends with blessing of peace. Okay, very good. The shalom and the shalom will pick up on that week. That's for sure true. But obviously, some people, I mean, I don't know, Doesn't matter, but why doesn't it have its own bracha? Like, why don't we make an extra bracha? Well, why does it sort of staying in the middle? Okay, thank you. We'll pick up on that. Okay, I'm not sure what the excellent points is referring to. Okay, but maybe what I said, I don't know. Secular Jews, can they survive as Jews with only two secular bases? So the truth of the matter is, maybe first of all, they can't survive as Jews, and for sure in Israel they can, because that's why the Israeli population is growing. I spoke for the last number of weeks, my Shabbos afternoon shir, I've been talking about the thought of Rav Lichtenstein. So the last couple of weeks, I talked about Rav Lichtenstein's attitudes towards non-observance, and it's I should share with you some of the quotes of Rav Lichtenstein. Many of them are in Adam Fursiker's article, which you can find online. The fragmentary nature of Judaism or something. I don't exactly know what it's called, but if you look in tradition, Adam Fursiker wrote an article about Rav Lichtenstein's attitude towards fragmentary Judaism, partial Judaism, and he asserts all the time that he's jealous sometimes, they do some things better than we do. I'm sorry? Yeah, they do, and to say that only religious Jews have values, he's so upset with that concept. And he's very upset. He doesn't even, the idea that, as he quotes, like what the Chazon Ish said, that the secular Jews are like an empty vessel. He said that's a terrible thing to say. Secular Jews have many, right, we want them to be more religious, but a lot of them have a lot of idealism in many areas. And Rav Lichtenstein says that very clearly. But and in Toronto, they're more likely to assimilate. But in Israel, they're not assimilating. They know they're Jewish. The whole culture is Jewish. So it's very different. Very different being a non-religious Jew in Israel than being one here. Okay, agree with me 100%. Thank you very much. Okay, although it's not so good to agree with me 100%. I don't even agree with me always 100%. Okay, clearly Toronto jury knee-jerk guidance. Oh my God. Yes. I agree. We need more moderate voices in Israel. I definitely agree. I think it's a huge problem. I hinted at the extremism in Israel is very upsetting to me. What can I do? It's
Rabbi.
Yes.
You stepped over my question. What does Sela mean?
Oh, I did self your question. Oh, I'm sorry. What does Sela mean? Hold
it
on.
occurs twice.
Sela is normally, see here.
It's not translated normally.
Right.
It's just
Sela. I don't know, actually. That's a good question. What exactly does it mean? Is it like hallelujah in a sense?
I was asked that this morning. That's why I'm asking.
Right. Okay, so let me write that down. I have to look up to get a better explanation. I'm looking here. It's not translated.
No.
All the lives will give thanks to you forever and praise you. They didn't translate Sela. Maybe it's one of these untranslated words. Okay, thank you for that. And thank you for pointing out that I missed it. Yes, I hear Israeli Jews are shomering most of the ritual mitzvah capacity for compassion to strangers. Right? Yeah, sometimes. Listen, now that the class is officially over, I mean, I saw a survey. I don't know how accurate it was that the majority of Jewish people don't care about the humanitarian suffering in Gaza, and that to me is very sad. It has nothing to do with the justification of Israel fighting the war and destroying Hamas and killing every terrorist. That's unrelated. But there is much human suffering, and even if there are enemy, we have to have Rahman. The Torah says you have to Rahmanas on your enemy too. But so I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. It's easy for me to live here in Toronto and say that. I totally admit that. It's not for me to really. I don't like to. I live here, so it's different. But I think the Torah is very clear. But you have to have compassion for all. What's the pasuk? God has mercy for everybody, right? And the Torah says the halach is you have to help your. Okay, that's talking about a Jew, but still you have to help your enemy before your friend, right? The famous halacha that if your friend is unloading an animal and your enemy is loading the animal, you always have to help the unloader first because you want to get it off the animal. But if your enemy who's loading the animal, and the Imam Forshim saying the enemy means a non-religious Jew, means he's like an enemy of God, so to speak, you have to help him first in order to promote nice relations. If you help your enemy that's the way to stop them fighting. So we always have to have compassion. How it applies when you have enemies who want to kill you, it's not so simple. I don't want to hear it past, but we should be aware. We Jews have to have compassion. We have to have Rahmanis, and sometimes there's misplaced Rahmanis. So I don't know what to say. Okay, I talk too much. Somebody else should argue with me or respond, but say that. But anyways, that's how I feel. But I think the Torah is a Torah of Chesed, and a Torah of Emet, and sometimes Chesed and Emet also contradict. The same way Shalom and Emet, right? Chesed and Emet, kindness and truth. Sometimes the truth requires certain things and kindness. And how do we balance that? Not so simple. Okay, is that it? Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll
Wow.
Yes.
About
Destroy
Selah.
Amalek. Yes, you have to destroy Amalek too. But even there, even the Rambam rules lahalacha that when you're fighting Amalek, you have to give them a passageway to escape, and you have to offer them a peace treaty. It's not true you just walk over to Amalek and you destroy them. No, even though it sounds like that, but we know we don't follow just the literal meaning of the Torah. There's an idea to destroy, and Rav Soloveitchik explained a little bit difficult, basically, that Amalek's not a descent, not a biological, it's an ideology. Amalek is an ideology, nothing to do with biology. And the Gemara said we don't have Amalek anymore. So even Amalek is room to prove. And the Gemara says that we know Haman is from Amalek, and the Gemara says that his grandchildren learned Torah in Bnei Brak, right? The famous Midrash, that the descendants of Amalek are learning Torah. Well, what do you mean they're learning Torah? I thought I had to kill them. No, you don't have to kill them. And whatever. Okay, Zev, what did you want to ask? I think you had a question.
Yeah, I remember learning most.
Hold on,
comment-
one at a time. Zev, quickly. Yes.
Yeah, I think I remember most commentators think Selah as a kind of a literary notation telling people to pause.
So why does it like
Pause
here-
for thinking, or pause for music, or some kind of pausing.
Okay, I have to look. So that's everybody should thank you. Look, and I said everybody means the whole world. Wow, we've been talking about Jews and I don't know. It's interesting. Why Dafka here? Why? Where else would be? I don't know. But thank you for that. Yes, I have to look it up.
Count the Omer. We see that word every single day during the Omer. It comes right at the very end of the stating of the number of day.
Right. What does you're saying
It's found 72 times in the Hebrew Bible, mostly in Psalms.
What is 72 times? Oh, the word Selah?
Yes, Selah is found 72 times in the Hebrew Bible, mostly in Psalms.
That's interesting. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna have to try to do some research on that. Thank you. Yeah, it does appear, right? If I think about all the times it appears, it is in Tehillim. Now I'm sort of thinking the times that it comes up. Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. We should hear good news and Chag Sameach. And listen, it's Torah is not simple. Torah is to apply the Torah to have a message of the world. It's a lot of work. We got to work hard. But okay, thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.